as guys who grew up as Batman fans, how did you feel, or what was your reaction the first time you found out you were going to be writing or drawing Batman? Jim, you go first.
One of the first, it was all done in secret, so I'm trying to think, it was a long time ago too. I worked on Batman Hush, that was in 2003, I think, or something like that, but at the time, actually still today, there's a lot of doubt whether I can make a monthly schedule or not. So I said, wasn't that funny? Anyway, and I said, well, look, we're gonna blow away the critics. We'll just work on this in secret. If I can't maintain some semblance of a schedule, we'll just put it out later or do it as a graphic novel. But if, let's just do this in secret so that if I fail, no one will know about it. And so it was just like the three of us. And Mark Chiarillo was an art director, and Mike Carlin, who was the editor at the time, and Jeff Lowe, who was the writer, and we basically worked on it for about 6 or 7 months until we realized, hey, I'm working at a pretty steady enough pace, we can actually do this as part of the regular ongoing book. So I just remember it was just kind of a cool experience working on something in secret. This is before social media and everything, so I doubt you could pull that off again today, but it was very much, I felt like I was a secret agent, very much a part of the Batman mythology while I was working on that book, so probably a different story for you.
Yeah, my experience was just abject terror. When I learned I was writing Batman, I remember telling my wife I should just call in sick forever. So I was terrified. Luckily, it was Dick Grayson when I first wrote. The first time I ever wrote Batman, Dick Grayson was under the cowl as Batman because Bruce was sort of lost in time in Grant's story. So Dick Grayson is a character who's so sort of bewildered by being Batman that it was almost effortless, where he's sort of I'm in the Batcave driving the Batmobile, and that was exactly how I felt. So it was more seamless than I thought. But then writing Bruce, it's very intimidating. It always is. It still is. I mean, even 30 or 40 issues in, for us, you still get chills when you write panel 1, the Batcave. You feel the history of that and the legacy of that. And the only way to do it is to sort of pretend you're doing fan fiction. Nobody's ever going to read it, and ignore all of you people and just pretend it's just for you and your mother, and that's about it. So yeah, it doesn't get intimidating, but you sort of, after a while, one of the things you realize, I think that's interesting, for me at least, is that you realize that your version of Bruce is personal. It's like a creator-owned character. And the versions that you've loved are very individuated, in particular to those creators. And when you meet them, like at San Diego, meeting Frank Miller or Grant Morrison and talking to them about their Batman, he's true to core, all of them. They're the same Bruce, and yet they're intensely different. And they can all coexist, and you see that, and it's just he's a character. You realize how adaptable he is, how incredibly sort of enduring he is, because he has this core message, but how anyone can kind of take it and make it their own and still be true to him, in that way.
Yeah, that's really intriguing, and I like what you said about pretending that no one's paying attention to what you're writing. That said, you both have done pretty significant things for the Batman legacy. Jim, you redesigned him, right, for New 52. Scott, you just finished Zero Year, which is a pretty intrinsic story for the Batman origin. So what is it like, putting your stamp on a character with this kind of history and this sort of legend?
It's funny because you don't hear any of the voices. I hear all the voices. When I draw something, I just hear everyone tweeting away oh, you got 6 fingers on him, he looks too tall, too many lines on the costume. And so it's just kind of this running dialogue I have as I draw it. But here's the thing. Nothing existed until someone created it. So if you have that sort of fearlessness towards the work, it comes more easily to you. And especially when you have to come up with gadgets, I think sometimes if you go too much into the continuity, too much into the history, and pull up too much reference, it prevents you from doing something that no one else has seen before. So you're just trying to find that balance between the two as you approach the mythology, because it is so, revered and so hallowed. But at the same time, it's only gotten better because people have fiercely kind of added to it, and I think that's the attitude we need to kind of leave your mark on it, is that you have to add something new to it. You just can't build up. You just can't continue to do what was there before.
Yeah, that's the legacy of books like Hush and Dark Knight Returns is that they were upsetting when you read them because they reinvented the character, the way he looked, the way he acted, the way he related, like to Catwoman in that, or Superman in this, and it's terrifying. My son, who's 7, the other day, it was like a few weeks ago, he was like asking me how many people read Batman, and I said, and he was sort of like, that's like the Yankee Stadium or more. And I was like, yeah, and then I suddenly pictured myself on the mound of Yankee Stadium, like reading a comic, you know, everybody in the audience, and being like, and they hated it, and they were like booing and throwing stuff at you, you know, and so yeah, it gets really scary, but I think the challenge is you have to understand that you love the character because you find something personal to relate to in him. And if you can make your stories on that character intensely personal, so they're about what you love and fear about that character, it'll be original no matter how classic the characters are in it, no matter how familiar the plot is, because you're bringing an originality of spirit to it, or an originality of your own sort of fears and fantasies as a writer. So you try and do that, you know, where you try and do stories that are built out of the things that you are terrified of and that run through all of your writing, and you know that that's in the DNA of your love for Batman or any licensed character that you write.